guys, we're back for another edition of Charlotte Observer High School football. We're on the road. My partner, Corey Inscoe, Butler High School coach Brian Hales. No state championship rings. Where are your rings?
My rings are home on the mantelpiece.
Why don't you football coaches ever wear your rings? What is up with
I wear mine.
Well,
you work so hard to get it, and then
right.
you never wear it.
Well, I'm sure like a lot of the other coaches, we're in the weight room a lot, so you don't want to damage them and bang them around on the weights and things like that. So you got to protect those things.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. We were just talking a second ago. You told me you worked at Providence Day.
I did.
Previously. What is it? What's the biggest difference between coaching at a private school and coaching at a big public school like this?
Well, there's a number of them. Obviously, numbers being one of them. Mm-hmm. Just the amount of kids you have involved in the program. And then, as far as opportunities, kids in a lot of the private schools, a lot of them have opportunities to do other things and take part in other activities and things like that where, a lot of the public schools, kids don't. It's whatever's available to them.
Athletically, what are the differences? Or is there a difference?
I think at the very top end, there's not. I mean, you're going to have great players. Whether it's a Country Day, of course, Christian and PD and Latin. It's just the number of them.
Would you like to play them?
Sure. I think you look at the Christian Mallard Creek game this year, and Christian obviously. Some great players. They have a great coaching staff over there. So. I think they're definitely, opportunities.
You'd be okay if they lifted the band, the CMS band, allowed you guys to schedule local practice?
Sure. Anytime you can play games around Charlotte, and I think it's, it's more for everybody. It's more attractive. You get more people out at the games, and so.
Duran, you hear?
Yeah, let's do it.
Corey, now last week we talked with Jason Eastep in Charlotte Christian. He actually talked about possibly seceding from the union and trying to join the Public School Athletic Association. How did you feel about, some of the private schools joining the NCHSA?
Well, I think as long as we're all playing on the same, level playing field. I know they took away the reclassification thing a few years ago. And
2004.
Yeah, that was right about the time I came over here. So, as long as everything's like that, where I think you could run into trouble is that you get a lot of the, some of these private schools that could get kids from all over the place. And, so I think, in that regard, it makes it a little bit more challenging.
You can put them all in their own conference.
Yeah, you can do that, of course.
But we're here to talk football playoffs. Let's jump to football playoffs. I'm gonna get you off the hot seat because I like putting people. I like putting people on the hot seat. I have my cheat sheet today on my iPhone. We're going to start in the 4A West. You talked about Mount Tabor, a team you saw earlier in the year. They play Rocky River. Tell me about that game and why you think Mount Tabor is dangerous.
Well, just from a size perspective, we've played obviously Mallard Creek and Richmond and these guys. Tabor's by far the biggest team we've seen all year. Wow. Not just along the offensive defensive lines, but their skill guys and they're really impressive. They were huge. Yeah, they were huge. So. I think Rocky River's going to have their hands full, but, again, with Coach Fowler.
What can Rocky River do to cause Tabor problems?
Not try to do something that they're not. And, they're going to get, Jair Alexander the ball. And
beast.
He is. He's special. He's special, and hopefully, Elijah Jett's healthy, this week. And, the quarterback, as long as he's not taking too many chances. And, they're real solid defensively. So I think if, like the rest of us, take care of the things they can control. Turnovers, pre-snap penalties.
Doesn't he love to say that all the time? Take care of things we can control. We can be the best Butler we can be.
That's right.
Before you start talking everything. High Point Central is Charlotte Catholic. And Jamestown Ragsdale's advanced. Vance plays the number 16 seed. Now, it is possible, Corey, that we could have an all 4A Charlotte semifinal. Will we see that?
I think there's a good chance of it. I think Vance really lucked out with the situation in Greensboro Dudley, that they get a second-round game against the number 16 seed rather than, the number 1 seed. So that's really good for them. And Charlotte Catholic's been playing really well. You can say what you want about, new coaches, not having Elijah Hood, but Jared Anderson's really stepped up. Catholic's really been playing strong.
Is Broderwitz the coach of the year, Charlotte?
I'm not ready to. There's too much going on. There are too many teams. He's a candidate. I think there's a lot of other good coaches around. Vance's coach is doing a great job also.
I think Vance has a huge advantage in that they play in such a tough conference, big 4A teams, and now they drop down and play smaller 4A teams. I think that the game slows down a little bit. It's almost like when you're playing a varsity guy and you go back and play JV. It's like, whoa, I can really do some things I couldn't do before.
I was going to say the same thing about Rocky River. The fact that they've had to play Butler, they've had to play Independence. They've they've played this tough schedule in conference, and they get to play the lower class of 4A. I mean, they have to help them some.
Well, you go back a few years ago, and South Beck made the run.
That's right.
Deep and
all the way to the regional finals.
Right. And they had Spencer Shuey and those guys.
Yeah, big expensive. That was a fun run. Yeah. Private school state championship games in Division II. Davidson Day is going again against South Lake Christian. I know that Davidson Day has wanted to play South Lake Christian in the past, and for whatever reason, couldn't get on the schedule. This is a pretty ugly rivalry, even though they've never played. All year long, I've been hearing about how Robert Washington is going to break the rushing record against Davidson Day. I mean, talk about that game and how big a deal that is up in the Huntersville area. Are they going to play at Northside Christian? I'm sure it's going to just have a huge crowd. Right,
absolutely. I mean, there's two of the big private schools up there. I mean, really big rivals. I hate they haven't played before this, but I mean, this is a good time to have rivalry in a big state championship game. I mean, Davidson Day, despite losing Will Greer, despite having that small team we've talked about, yeah, exactly. They've been so strong, and Chad Greer's did a great job of coaching them. But South Lake,
Chad Greer, the Mecklenburg County coach, Steve.
He's another one of the candidates. So
he's going for his 4th straight state title.
I know.
And
they're beating public school teams, and it's not just like he's playing these little private school teams. He's beating public school teams. He's really proven himself.
And actually have a little bit more of an actual state tournament in Division II versus Division I. I hate Division I state play. You guys do know that.
That's why I mean,
come on, coach. No, it's like you and
we all don't get it
championship.
Don't get them started. No,
it's terrible.
But think about if you were able to throw those two teams up into that, it's still a Mecklenburg County championship.
Yeah,
but if you got to throw
it extends
Davidson
it a
Day
little bit. It extends a little bit, and also Victory Christian. Playing Raven Gap in the Division III championship. Josh Allen's one of the most underrated players. Coach Eastep talked about him last week. Broke the Mecklenburg County rushing record. 411 yards and 12 carries.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, Wake Christian's not very good, but 411 yards and 12 carries.
Right. And there's another argument for your wanting to restructure it. The fact that that's a state semifinal game, and it's that much of a mismatch on the teams. They shouldn't be playing down that level.
No, they shouldn't. They should be playing up. I'd love to see almost an invitational type of tournament in private schools because some of these schools just aren't going to play Charlotte, and I get that. But let the Charlotte teams who want to play each other, and extend the playoffs. Having Providence Day play Christian back-to-back weeks, and have a Country Day play Latin back-to-back weeks, it's not good. Yeah. My opinion, it's just not good.
I agree.
All right, so now we're going to get to the big boys. Providence in the 4AA bracket, 9-3, going to play East Forsyth 11-1. Any thoughts on that?
Hopefully Providence is healthy. Here and they're a little bit banged up right now, and this time of year you got to have all your guys. And, I mean, if you're going to do any sort of damage, short of someone just coming off the radar, and but at this point in the year, you know who you are, and the kids have gotten you there, and just hopefully for Providence they're healthy, but. Coach Harden does a great job, and they've got obviously they're
another candidate for
absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean they've got great size up front and skilled guys. So so I think they could definitely make a run up there at East Forsyth.
Audrey Kell's at Lake Norman. Audrey Kell going to play the alien quarterback.
The alien quarterback. It's
Ladowski every week. I mean, I'm just like, really? Seriously? I mean, that's like PlayStation every week. He's like 400, 500 yards, 7, 8 touchdowns. I do think that Lake Norman beat West Charlotte last week to get their first playoff win in school history. Congratulations, Coach McNeely. We were up seeing him a couple weeks ago. Had a real good time. Great school up there. All the kids getting MacBooks. Isn't that kind of cool? And but I think the same thing that Lake Norman that Mooresville ran into last week playing Vance, I think could hurt Lake Norman this week playing Arthur Kell, and that they play a 3A, 4A league, and now they're going to play a big 4A team. Is that a real factor, or is that just a sports writing thing?
No, it's definitely a factor. Because you have to step up every week, and talking about Kell here, and you have to compete at a very high level, and you get preparation playing at that level as opposed to you don't always have to play great to come away with a win, and it can kind of give you that false sense of security.
Now that said, Audrey Kell has to deal with the lead athlete.
Right? Oh yeah.
And he's going to have the ball every single play. So as a coach, how do you prepare for a guy like that? Because you have a guy like that.
Right. You try to make it as one-dimensional as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Try to force him, whether it's via the run or via the pass, try to force him and their offense into a box where he can be, somewhat predict what they're going to do, and then, take away the big plays. Just force. And it's tough for a high school team. It's tough for college teams to go 10, 12 plays without making a mistake down the field and putting yourself in a second, third team and things like that.
Yeah, but then he goes, it looks like he's running, and that safety comes up a little bit, and he backs up.
not a lot you can
Corey
do about
Joyner,
that.
everybody got a touchdown.
But,
I mean, Lake Norman is just ridiculous. Offensively, the last 2 years, they're as good as I've seen in a long time around here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But RWK's a team we haven't really talked about much, but I mean, think about what they've done this season. They only lost to Weddington first game of the season by a little bit.
Yep.
They lost to Catholic on a last-second touchdown. Yes. They lost to Providence. I mean, those are 3 good losses.
So I know who you're
picking.
I know who you're
picking. Well, no, but I'll tell Adam Hastings this. I'm not going to be at the game, so don't worry me jinxing. The 3 games I've covered of theirs, they've lost, and I think he's tired of seeing me show up at their game. So I won't be there. So you'll be all right.
Chad Greer always says I should keep picking against Davis. Coach, I got bad news for you this week. Huff and Independence, rematch, 27-17. Big I won the first time around. I know some of those scores came against the second team, as Christian Cologne reminded us. Mm-hmm. That's a big dude, too, man.
He is. He's huge.
I wouldn't want to meet that dude in the dark alley.
No.
All that hair and all that attitude, I mean, that's a big guy. Can Huff dent that defense?
Yes, they can. And, I think when you look at Huff now versus, when those guys played earlier in the year, I think you're seeing – a Huff team that's much more comfortable with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gave Coach Aldridge a chance to, learn his guys and find out, what's the best situations to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
So, you see them playing a lot better now. So, anytime you've got the number of elite athletes like he has, it doesn't take much to put points on the board.
Now, what about your arch enemies over there? What's it going to take for them to win?
They've just got to continue to play the way they have. Just defensively, they've been lights out. Just 11 guys to the ball on every play. And offensively, Kelvin does some great things over there. And, they got the 2 running backs. And, Jenkins a tight end, and they flex him out a little bit.
They have 7 shutouts. And Kelvin Hopkins, when we were over there, remember he compared them to the 2010 Butler group defensively. How does that defense, in your opinion, compare to some of the great defenses you've seen over here?
Well, geez, it's tough for me to say because I really, I looked at that defense that those defenses we've had every single day, and they were really unbelievable. And then you turn the TV on a Saturday, and they're all there. They're all playing, and
Chris Ross made a pretty big tackle a couple weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
That dude Colin Bayou up in Stanford, he's player of the week.
Right. 3 sacks against Washington. So. Those groups, they hold special place in my heart because I just...
Colin Bayou is probably the second best linebacker I've seen play in Charlotte, other than D'Angelo Lloyd in Independence. He's phenomenal.
I agree.
That's beside the point.
Yeah. And that's as, short of having the Sean Wiggins out there, who's, now he's cracked the starting lineup, and I think 28 tackles the last 2 games.
But is this defense at Independence an elite level defense?
They can be. The thing that all these other defenses had in common is they finished with the state championship. So I think it's one of those deals to get into that conversation. You have to do
gave
that.
Independence a little
Yeah.
louder to put up in the locker room.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the last game. My boss, Mike Persinger, put out a tweet today, which I totally agree with. That, Butler or Mallard Creek, or Huff or Independence for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's knocked. 2 of these teams are knocked out.
Yeah.
In the second week in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, it is. Because we've all had opportunities to set the seating up differently. If we would have finished off the Independence game, well then, we wouldn't.
But beyond that, is this playoff format correct? Should we even have the possibility of these type of matchups in week 2?
Well, I think if you take the names off the jerseys, you got a first place, conference champion playing a second place team in a conference, and that's pretty consistent with all these matchups. So, if you look at it that way, I don't really see, a different way to do it.
So subdividing 4AA, 4A doesn't bother you?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation. I would like to see, possibly going to the 5 divisions, and because what's the number 1 state champion for every 47 schools or something like that right now. It's great, and you love to win a state championship, but you'd like to see it spread out a little bit more, and we've got more schools playing for fewer championships.
This year, I've noticed a trend with you guys. 2 trends. You start slow, and you're having trouble stopping people. That's not Butler football.
No.
Butler football is normally knock you out quick, step on your neck, you don't score, and you're sitting on the sideline goofing off a Gatorade in the 4th quarter.
Right.
Man, I'm serious.
No, and I mean, you're on the money with that, but, when you look at the teams we've been playing against as well, obviously Mallard Creek early on, I mean, you know what they've done, and, Richmond, and, their history and where they're at right now, and Independence having the year that they're having. So, I think to say that we could just line up and smash these guys and put them away and drink Gatorade in the fourth quarter, wild enough for that to happen. It's not realistic this year, just because there is just so much parity in the 4AA West right now.
So there's not 2010 Butler, 2013 Mallard Creek.
There's not. When you look at the scores to all these games, there's just, not just our games. And, I think all the coaches would agree that we're all good enough to beat anybody, but we're all good enough if we don't have a great night, we could get beat by anybody.
But does it concern you defensively, though, that you having so many shootouts this year? And is there something you can fix going into this week?
Well, part of that is, anytime you go to a more of an up-tempo type offense like we have in the last 2 years, where the defense is just there's a lot more turnaround, there's more plays being run, you're going to see naturally a little bit of an uptick as far as points allowed. We haven't done ourselves any favors with turnovers in key spots, and, in special teams as well. You look at the Richmond game where we had a couple breakdowns on special teams. You look at the Independence game, we had breakdowns on special teams. So, I don't think you put that all directly on the defense.
Let's revisit that Richmond game. You're up by 15?
15 with about a minute and a half.
And they score, and everybody in the stadium knows what they're about to do. I mean, what happened on that onside kick?
Well, the first thing is they returned the previous kickoff for a touchdown. We had a 15-yard penalty. One of our kids went low and got a chop block call. So now they're kicking the outside kick from our 45-yard line. Well, they're starting that possession about our 30-yard line. So, you're giving a great offense a short field, and, even with a great defense, you take our 2012 defense, I mean, that's a tough battle to face right there.
Well, Corey, break down this game. You saw Mallard Creek, Butler, part one, and Mallard Creek had the 15-yard celebration penalty in quotation marks. Did you think that was a penalty?
Well, it's funny that, when they threw the penalty, I thought it was for the kid holding the ball up, but as he ran the last 10 yards, you remember back, it was probably 2007, 2008, when Jared Boykin got ejected from the game for doing a very similar thing. So that's what I thought the penalty was for. And I didn't realize it till, later on that one of their kids had come off the sideline. And
I just think in that moment, with such a big score, I don't know, sometimes you got to kind of put the yellow flag in your pocket and let it sit.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree you do, but then, where do you draw the line?
But then we get into the other thing that I hate about high school football, is overtime.
It is.
Can we go 25-yard line? You agree with me there?
Yeah. I mean, at least a 20. Yeah. Give an opportunity to get a first down, but it's just, 10-yard line.
It's tough.
It is.
So break it down. I'm sorry. I want to come.
No, that's fine. I mean,
but tell me about version 1 and what's going to happen, even though Coach is sitting here in version 2.
I mean, I expect much of the same thing. I mean, that game was early on. What was it?
Second week?
Second week? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's early on. These teams have changed a lot. They've gotten better on both sides of the ball, things like that. But I still expect that they are two very good, very even teams. I think it comes down to a late score again, or something, or a mistake, or something. I feel like that's what you're going to end up seeing as being the difference in the game this week. But I mean, you got
two phenomenal quarterbacks. You talked about Ladowski, but Mr. Smith, James Smith, over at Mallard Creek, he's played a week every week. He's 300 yards rushing, 100 yards passing. Your kid, Radley Williams, is having a phenomenal season. I don't think either one of these teams are going to be able to slow either one down.
No, I think it's a high-scoring game. Is my guess too. I mean, I think it's going to be.
I think it's more than the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because I think both of you guys want this so bad, and I think that, as you said, the up tempo is going to create a lot of possessions. And if you give great players multiple possessions, they're going to score. And in the old days, you guys would take your best 7 of your top 10 players and put them on defense. Now you guys are taking 7 of your top 10 players and put them on offense. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, I think it's pretty.
So if I give my 7 of my best players more opportunities against 3 of your best players, we're going to score more points.
Yeah, makes sense.
This game's going to be in the 40s.
I would say so, yeah.
Get ready.
I agree.
Another one of these.
Another one of those.
Had a lot of those this year.
Another one of those. But is Charlotte going to win a state championship this year? Because a lot of people think this is the year that it ends and, the Charlotte dominance is over and everybody else is caught up.
I think so. Between one of the two, between 4A and 4AA, I think they should win one. I mean, I think you've got, between...
I think they win 2.
Yeah, I think they could too. Between Mallard Creek, Butler, Independence up there, I think one of those 3 schools has a really good chance of making it all the way. Whoever makes it through, these next couple games.
So Huff's just gone in your mind.
Huff, I think Huff, I think...
That was Corey Inscoe.
But you look at
Inscoe at CharlotteObserver.com.
You look at our polls, and we've said, I mean, we think those are the top 3 teams in the state, and I don't think it's going to be different. Huff could upset Independence, absolutely, but I think those are 3 teams, and one of those 3 has a really good chance of making it. And you look at, Charlotte Catholics had a great season, Rock Rivers had a great season. I mean, Vance. I mean, there's a lot of teams that I think, so many teams in the mix from Charlotte that have a chance at it that I think we're bound to get one.
I think the reason why people feel that way is because, since 2000 it was Independence, and then it was Butler, and then Mallard Creek had a great team, and they were all kind of foregone conclusions, except the first Independence team. 2001 Independence, it was done. 2002 and so forth, so on. 2009 Butler is done.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2012 Butler is really done. I mean, people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you couldn't score.
Yeah.
I mean, the state championship game, it was like the first quarter was like 30-0 or something crazy.
Nothing,
yeah, it was, and Riley Ferguson's back there like counting his money. But this year, there's not that super team in Charlotte, and I think that gives other people reason to believe it's going to end. But what you have is a lot of really, really good teams, but not that super elite team. So I do think Charlotte wins another state championship this year, and I do think next year a lot of folks are in trouble because a lot of teams in Charlotte are young. Mm-hmm. But that's our talk this week. We'll be back next week with you.
Yeah, let's do it again.
So that means you're going to win?
Yeah.
There it is.
It's over here.
All right. We'll catch you guys next week.